For the first time this season, the Florida Gators basketball team has lost a game. Let's talk about it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Unhappy Saturday. I am your host, Brandon Olsen. Brutal, right? Right? Sucks. The Florida Gators lose their first game of the season, 100-106 against the Kentucky Wildcats. The first time Florida played a ranked team this season. Makes more. I mean, look, I will say this. I'm not happy with the loss. I'm not happy with the game itself for multiple reasons. But I will say that this could have been worse. I'm not excusing anything. I'm just saying that this could have been worse considering this was the first time Florida played a ranked team. I feel like we've often seen, they've been blowing everybody out, but they've played nobody. And then they go up and play a ranked team on the road, top 10 team at that, not just ranked, but top 10 team on the road, and they get run out the gym. And at least that didn't happen. That being said, this game was an ugly loss. Not happy with it. I know that that basketball is a game of runs, but it did feel like every long run was for Kentucky. Like it didn't feel like Florida went on a ton of long runs. It felt like Florida would go on, an 8-0 run, and then Kentucky scores, and then Florida goes on a 6-8-0 run again, and then Kentucky goes on like a 16-0 run. So that part, not great, right? And it's incredibly frustrating. I see everybody talking about the main thing that we will talk about as well, that it was incredibly frustrating, and that it kind of felt like last year, right? Florida lost this game 106-100. Florida shot 35% from three, which isn't bad, right? But allowed Kentucky to shoot 48% from three. I don't think that's a discrepancy that is acceptable. I don't think that's fun. That's fair. I don't think so. Just you can't get outshot by three that bad. And then, of course, Florida shot 11 more free throws, but only made 4 more because they shot 63% from the free throw line. They're free, and you shot 63%. That's unacceptable. This felt like last year where we saw that multiple times when Florida would lose close games, which you lost by 6, you missed 13 free throws. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's not anything ridiculous there. I'm just saying, like I feel like this is a bad loss only because it was winnable. You had missed threes. I mean, Denzel Aberdeen had that 1-3 on the wing where he was just wide open. No one even attempted to guard him after he caught the ball, and he bricked it. Kobe Brea, 7 for 9 from 3, and he started 7 for 8. The last miss was with Alex Condon on him. Like, we need a big man to get the contest there. You can't leave the guy that's red hot that open. It happened far too often. And outside of him, Kentucky really didn't shoot that well from 3. And Florida didn't guard threes that well. But outside of Kobe Brea, Kentucky didn't shoot that well from 3. Outside of him, Kentucky shot 7 for 20 from 3. Like, outside of Kobe Brea, they really didn't shoot that well. But Florida, and the thing that frustrates me as well is that Florida did a lot of what Florida wants to do, right? A high percentage of their shots were either from the 3-point line or from the free throw line. That's what they're trying to do. They took more, I think, mid-range shots this game than we've ever seen this season. And a lot of that is because Elijah Martin had to take over for a little bit, and he was doing it from mid-range for a bit, which fine by me. But Florida did what they wanted to do usually. And chat, I see you. We'll get to the chat in the second half as always. But Florida did what they wanted to do. They shot threes. They shot free throws. They hounded the offensive boards. They had 15 offensive rebounds. Kentucky had 9. Florida out-rebounded Kentucky by 8. Okay? Florida had a few more turnovers that were not great. Florida had the more missed threes that just destroyed them, not contesting shots. It was that Florida offensively kind of did what they want to do, right? They shoot a lot of threes. They get to the free throw line. They crash the boards. Defensively, it was horrible. You didn't contest threes enough. And Kentucky was cutting and having open lanes every time. Like, it was crazy. If it wasn't Ruben Chinyelu on the court, if it wasn't Ruben Chinyelu on the court, Kentucky was scoring in the paint easily. And that frustrated the hell out of me. That did. And I know Alex Condon, nothing against him like that, but he wasn't defending the paint as well as Ruben Chinyelu was. Chinyelu's off the court. They were getting the cuts with Condon out there. I think it's because Condon steps out more toward the perimeter, but it was leaving the cuts open, and that kind of killed you. Alex Condon shot 3 for 8 from the free throw line. Elijah Martin shot 3 for 7 from the free throw line. Walter Clayton Jr., a 91% free throw shooter. The commentators said that, and he went 9 for 13, which is still good, but not 91%, right? And so Florida played a rather uncharacteristic game in the sense of they just weren't executing as well as they'd like to. But this is also something that we've talked about from basically the first game of the season, right? Every live show I've done from this point, I've said Florida's going to have games where they don't hit those threes, where they don't execute the way that they want to execute, but they're going to run the game plan. They're just not going to execute that way. And it feels like that's what happened, right? They didn't shoot well enough from 3. They shot horrible from the free throw line. Again, something that we talked about a lot last season. That was a very common thing for them, was to shoot horrible from the free throw line. They didn't have as many turnovers this time. And I will say this as well. You lost a game to a great basketball team. Like Florida lost a game to a great basketball team by 6 in what was a great basketball game, right? Like, I'm not happy with the outcome, and I'm not happy with how Florida executed some things, but it felt like it was a great basketball game, right? I don't know. At least for me, regardless of that, it felt like a great basketball game. You played a really good basketball team. You played one of the top teams in the country, right? And you lost. And that happens. You got your first loss out of the way. Now I'm interested to see how Florida bounces back from this because, again, definitely a rough one. You have Tennessee in a couple days. It's what, Monday? Tuesday. On Tuesday, you have Tennessee. Gonna be a toughie, right? And also, let's say this. You went on the road for this one. Like, you went on the road against a top 10 team, and you lost by 6 when you were down by 10 at the half, and it kind of felt like Kentucky was going to start running away with it, and they never did. It's just you got to clean some things up, right? There were too many possessions where it's like, oh, let's just dribble around and kind of do nothing, right? Too many possessions there. Toward the end of the game, when there was, I want to get the time right, so I'm going to go to the play-by-play on ESPN because I remember it was toward the end of the game where is it? Yeah, Kentucky hits a 3 to go up 8. Kentucky calls timeout. Florida then spends 20 seconds to get a layup. Then you foul. They miss the free throw. I feel like spending those 20 seconds wasn't an efficient use of your time. And then there was another point where Florida burned far too long on time. And that's been a thing that happened last year too, right? If you remember last year, we talked about it where Florida, when they're down late, they do spend too much time just dribbling around and kind of hanging out. And that's just not acceptable stuff when you're down late. It's just not acceptable there. But Florida, again, I mean, this is a game of runs. Basketball is a game of runs, sure. But Kentucky's runs were way more significant than Florida's. And that's kind of what crushed you, right? Both teams, the largest lead was 11. Points in the paint, Kentucky beat you. And that's another thing, too. I don't think you can get beat in points in the paint and get beat in three-pointers made and still win the game. Like, I can't think of a time I've seen teams lose both and lose fast break points and win the game, because that's what happened. Florida, they made 12 threes on 34 attempts. Kentucky made 14 threes on 29 attempts. You lose that one. Fast break points. Florida had 8, 3 of them coming from an Elijah Martin 3 toward the end of the game. Kentucky had 17. Points in the paint. Florida had 38. Kentucky had 44. You got beat in 3 major scoring categories. Not surprising that you're going to lose that game. Kind of surprising that you only lost that game by 6. If we're being honest, I feel like if you get outshot from 3, if you get outscored in the paint, and if you give up more fast break points, you're probably getting blown out. But you lost by 6. And I want to say this as well. I realize that I'm not being incredibly harsh right now, but I just think that this was a game between 2 great teams, and you lost by 6, and that's not something I'm going to kill you over, to lose versus a team that might be in the Final Four, right? And you are a team that might be in the Final Four, and you were on the road, and you lost by 6, and you could have rolled over and died, but you didn't. Like, there were plenty of points in this game where Florida could have just been like, all right, it's over. You know, Andrew Carr hit that 3 late. I think he was the one that hit the 3 to send them up 8 with like a minute and 25 seconds left. And like, you could have just been like, oh, well, it's over there. But you didn't. And so I will give them credit there. Yeah, rough stuff. Anybody want to say anything? We will get to the chat after a quick break when we get back with Locked On Gators. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? 3 big W's there. Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. So no more waiting for answers, no more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got 1 form or 20, TurboTax experts give you their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress. It's beautiful. So if you're ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back, guaranteed, head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate. They are. So you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guaranteed. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We got 2 games today. 2 NFL games today. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I'll tell you, I almost hit a plus. I don't want to say almost. If Florida won this game today, I would have hit a plus 650 bet. All right, I bet for Kentucky to win the first half, Florida to win the game. Didn't happen. Would have been really cool. Thought we had a chance at it. But again, didn't happen. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And we'll go through the chat here to wrap up this bonus episode of Locked On Gators, which, again, we will be trying to do more consistently. This was always the plan. Like I said, the beginning part of the season, we're not going to go live too often during these games because they're always on difficult channels to watch, and it's just not reliable. Now that we got SEC play, going to be on ESPN, ESPN2 a lot, SEC Network, we'll be able to actually watch these games and go live more frequently after. I will also say I freaking hate that this is the only time Florida plays Kentucky. I love when Florida plays Kentucky. I hate Kentucky. So I love watching Florida play Kentucky. We're going to get through the chat here and we say this usually during football season, but Saturdays are for feeling, and it's a Saturday game. So Saturdays are for feeling, so we're going to feel here. Q, what's up? They beat themselves in this one. Yeah, I mean, again, this is – you can't shoot 63% from the free throw line and realistically expect to win. I feel like that's a tough one. Just honestly, I'm not even trying to be too much of a killer on it. I know that I harped last year a lot on free throws. And also that was the thing that I harped on a lot during the offseason. But, yeah, you just can't do it. And especially when it's uncharacteristic, like Walter Clayton missing one would have been expected. Missing 4, not ideal. Well, missing 1 would have been the expectation there. And even then, that's another 3 points that you would have had. Tough stuff there. I only caught Morgan Dellinger said, I only caught I don't know why I just threw your whole government out there. I'm sorry, but I did it. I only caught the end of the first. Too many mistakes. Yeah. That and those final 8 minutes of the first half were brutal. It was just absolutely brutal. It sucked. If the coach, okay, George. All right. I read that one earlier, and I'm glad I didn't read it through. Mudkip, what's up, buddy? Missed every free throw possible, same as last year. Condon sold on the free throws. Yeah, and honestly, Condon and Walter Clayton selling on free throws was not ideal, and Elijah Martin selling on free throws was not ideal. Because here's the thing, and we talked about this a lot last year. Todd Golden wants, and I know that some people hate analytics and whatever. I don't care if you do. I love them. But also Todd Golden loves him. And so he's going to build his team to run analytically sound or whatever the hell you want to say about it. But that means that the most efficient shots in basketball are around the rim twos and catch and shoot threes. And Florida's going to go to get to the rim, especially when you get, I don't know, it felt like Florida was getting really favorable whistles by the refs today. So I'm happy about it. But when you get to the line as frequently as, if you try to get to the rim as much as you're trying to get to, or as much as Florida's trying to get to, then you're going to get to the line again. And if you get to the line, you got to convert those opportunities. There's no point in attacking the rim if when you get to the line, you're just going to piss down your leg. And when you shoot 63% from the free throw line, that's pissing down your leg. And so you can't have that happen. That kind of stuff's just unacceptable, really. Because again, think about it. You missed 13 free throws, shooting 63%. If you shoot even just slightly better, then you're down 2. Maybe you're taking a shot at the end of the game and not letting Kentucky dribble it out. Compounding errors there, we'll say. Missed free throws, same problems on switching on three-pointers. Yeah, Double Gator. You're absolutely right. There's far too many open threes. And to start the game, I feel like Florida usually at the beginning of the game, that's when they have more of those screw-ups. But this time to start the game, they were actually doing it really well, and they hit a couple shots early, and I was like, okay, we might be looking at Florida making some plays. And then that just folded once they started cutting, and once Ruben Chinyelu came off the court. I personally – I think Ruben Chinyelu is one of the most important players on the defense or on the team this year. I think that what he does on the boards is incredible. He had 8 rebounds, 5 of them were offensive. What he does on the boards, getting putbacks and getting himself to the line or just drawing fouls down there, which he drew, I think, 3 off-ball fouls in this game. I think he's very important to this team. And his paint protection, 2 dunks. Not even layup, jump. No, dunks. He blocked 2 dunks, which also crazy because I feel like anytime you even attempt to block a dunk, there's a foul call. There's usually a whistle, but we'll see. Team has a lot to clean up. I know George said Tennessee's going to boot stomp us. They might. Luckily, this game's going to be in Gainesville, so hopefully a little help there. But you can't shoot 35% from 3 and 63% from the free throw line while allowing your opponent to shoot 48% from 3 and expect to win the game. So, if you don't clean those up, It's going to be rough. Not going to lie to you. Going to be rough. Kobe Bryant destroyed them. Absolutely. Just cooked them. Auburn's the best team in the country. Yeah, maybe. They just might be. I don't like admitting that. And in fact, I'm going to say they might be. I'm not going to say, yeah, they might be. I'm going to say they might be. Just because we have too many Auburn fans with Locked On College, just like coworkers. And I don't want to give them any credit. So I'm going to say might be. I'm not going to give them a definitive yes. Bad defense, missed free throws. Yeah, I mean, Kentucky shot 58% from the field, 48% from three, 75% from the line. If Florida shot 75% from the line, this game's different, right? Let's see. Florida shot 75% from the line. That's 104 points that they'd have, roughly. It's a decimal, but it'd be 104 points. So, again, that's what we're talking about. Like, I'm not even saying you need to shoot 90% from the free throw line. But if you shoot 70, 75%, this is a one-possession game. And then we're having a different conversation. Hell, if it was a one-possession game, it might still be going with how many fouls there were. But it's crazy to see. But it's brutal. It's just going to be brutal. Wasn't impressed with the other big men defensively. You said that 15 minutes ago, so I'm assuming it's when I was talking about Alex Condon. Look, 10 rebounds is great. Shooting 3 for 7 as a big man, 3 for 8 from the free throw line, not as great. But, I mean, this is, again, Florida. You out-rebounded them. You killed them on the boards. You got to the free throw line 35, or not 35 times, but 4 35 shots. You got 34 three-pointers up. Like, this is game plan-wise, that's kind of what Florida wants to do. They just didn't execute it as well. They just didn't execute when they got there, right? And like Rob S. just said, if that's what it takes to beat you, UF will be all right. Like, if you need to shoot 58% from the field, 48% from the three-point line, or 48% from three, 75% from the free throw line, if you need to shoot that great, if you need to go 50, or if you need to go 58, 48, 75 to beat Florida, you're going to be all right, right? Allowed 18 three-pointers by Kentucky, 18 for 24. No, that's free throws. Threes were 14 for 29, 18 for 24 free throws. But yeah, if that's what it takes to beat Florida, then it's going to be really tough to beat Florida. That's why I'm not killing them. Like, I don't think Florida played well today. But this was a top 10 team that beat you by 6 in a game where I don't think you played, or I don't want to say didn't play well, but you didn't execute as well. You missed quite a few open threes. And if you hit those, we're having a different conversation. I mean, Elijah Martin shot 5 for 12 from 3. Walter Clayton shot 6 for 12 from 3. Those were 11 of your threes made on 24 of your attempts. The rest of the team went 1 for 10 from 3. Like Will Richard going 0 for 3, not acceptable, also uncharacteristic. Thomas Hawk went 1 for 2, and I believe that his 3 that he made was top key. Denzel Aberdeen 0 for 3, bricked a wide open one. Alex Condon 0 for 2. I'm not saying that this team's amazing. I'm not saying anything like that, but this was a rather uncharacteristic shooting performance from them, which is something that we expected this whole time. From the start of the season, we talked about it. We had conversations on Locked On Gators about it. It's not great. Could have been worse considering this is your first ranked and top 10 opponent. And yeah, I think for Florida, if you just play the way you're expected to play, this is different. I think that my expectations for Florida at this point, which going into the season, they were always Elite 8. I think you probably should still get there, but you got to just clean up some of the things. Like, you can't allow 52 points in the first half, 54 in the second half, and expect to win games consistently, especially when you're missing free throws and missing threes. But for the most part, it's tough for me to kill them. It is. And again, I'm not trying to be someone that just writes things off. I'm just saying it's tough for me to be really furious about things when I don't think you played great and you still barely lost this game. So that's why I'm like, yeah, it happens. That's what I'll say. It happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but it happens. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will be back. Monday at the absolute latest. If anything happens, and we can talk about it. But until then, For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I will see you all next time.